Arcadian Vanguard presents The Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with NXT broadcast live last night on the CW from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. In the main event, Oba Femi successfully defended the NXT title against Eddie Thorpe.
Femi again. Oh, Femi, just when you think he's out, he pulls you back in.
Here we go.
Power! Tossing Eddie Thorpe. Femi.
All hail the ruler.
Femi is fired up. And we know what's coming next. It's a fall from grace for Eddie Thorpe. A thunderous one at that. And Oba Femi retains his title.
After the match, Trick Williams hit the ring and laid out Thorpe a second time. Bayley appeared on the show to deliver a promo but was interrupted by NXT Women's Champion Julia, who then joined her in brawling with Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez.
Here we go. Well, we're going to need a little bit of help out here to keep these four separated.
Why keep them separated? Let them fight, Vin.
It's a hell of a
Get him,
point.
Roxanne. Get him.
Cora just escaped the Bayley to belly attempt.
Oh my.
In other title matches, Tony D'Angelo successfully defended the North American title against Ridge Holland, and Lexis King retained the Heritage Cup against Charlie Dempsey, scoring the third and deciding fall in the fourth round. In other results, Brooks Jensen and Nico Vance beat Channing Stax Lorenzo and Luca Crucifino, Carmen Petrovich pinned Jada Parker, and Wes Lee defeated Dion Lennox. After the match, Lee issued a challenge to Trick Williams, which was accepted. The show featured the return on commentary of Corey Graves, who was reported last week to have been sent home from Orlando after publicly criticizing WWE's decision to send him back down to the NXT announce team. In ratings news, last week's edition of SmackDown drew 1.403 million viewers to USA Network on Friday, according to Programming Insider. That's down slightly from the 1.463 million that tuned in the week before, but still enough to make it the highest rated show on cable TV for the night. The rating in the 18 to 49-year-old demographic was a 0.42, which was slightly up from the previous week's rating of 0.40. And in more WWE news, the company plans to hold a tryout in Europe this year, according to Fightful Select. The tryout is reportedly set to take place in London in early March and will specifically focus on recruiting talent from the United Kingdom and elsewhere in Europe. It is said to include talent from European promotions like WXW, OTT, and Progress. The deadline for applications for the tryout is said to be February 28th. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast, and remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.